My wife Allison and I had already been working with Patrick DeWitt. And we asked him, what else do you have? And he said, well, I've written this book, but it hasn't come out yet. I have the manuscript if you want to read it. And Allison devoured it in 24 hours.
I remember reading it, staying up all night and reading it, and the pages were flipping and my heart was racing, and it was so good. I
also read it in 24 hours, incredibly, and it was just such a compelling story, and I just felt immediately so connected to the characters, especially Eli, and it was just really resonated for me. I have 3 brothers of my own, so a lot of those relationships and a lot of those dynamics that are in the book I really related to.
I approached the writing of a Western in a roundabout way. It began really as an exercise in dialogue. It was just 2 men on horseback riding side by side and talking about nothing of very much consequence. From the start, these characters wanted to bicker, they wanted to argue. And I thought that was sort of interesting, it just kept my interest.
We sent it off to Jacques.
Pourquoi ce n'est pas un western typique? D'abord, c'est toujours un petit peu prétentieux de dire je ne suis pas dans le typique, je fais quelque chose d'original. Moi, je n'ai pas un goût particulier pour le western. Ça, c'est une chose. Donc, je suis allé naturellement peut-être vers autre chose, qui est, pour moi, c'est un film d'époque, c'est un conte, c'est une aventure picaresque, c'est un roman de formation. On peut mettre tout ça dans le western, mais on peut aussi ne pas le mettre.
It's a strange experience to see your book interpreted by somebody else, but I was always sort of comforted by the fact of Jacques being such a masterful director.
Qu'ils aient peur éventuellement de se faire toucher. Là, on est un peu dans un playland. Ouais. Il faut pas ça. Et alors, il y a une chose que j'aime.
Successful adaptations require free thinking. I mean, I really was impressed with Jacques' ability to, take the whole thing apart, look at every piece, create new order, and somehow keep a really faithful connection to the source material.
Je pense qu'il y a une espèce de truc, c'est facile. Alors, c'est pas facile, comment tirer, c'est ça. Tirer, il faut tirer. Et là, c'est bang, 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 bang.
C'est 2 frères qui n'arrêtent pas de se disputer. En fait, ils sont adultes, ils ont 45 ans, ils sont fatigués par leur métier, ils sont très frustres. Et en même temps, c'est comme s'ils avaient 12 ans. Ce sont des enfants ils ont 12 ans. Ils continuent leur conversation comme s'ils avaient 12 ans.
Says for the next job, we need to have a lead man.
What's it mean about money?
It means more for me. Are you pouting?
Eli's neurotic. He's concerned about how he looks and his weight, and he has all these sort of existential questions, which typically, in a Western, somebody in his position, you wouldn't really necessarily be granted access to his inner thoughts. It's much more about the brutality of the life.
Go home, you fools.
Oh, you fucking coward.
A lot of the Westerns that I've seen, the characters are sort of opaque. You don't know what they're thinking. Like Clint Eastwood, you don't know what he's thinking. It's just this mysterious figure you're trying to sort out. What is he thinking? What's he going to do next? And what I loved about this book was the emotional availability of the characters. I just thought that was a really modern way to look at the time period. And then the kinship of Joaquin and I as the characters as something else.
Charlie.
Damn fool.
Jacques had a couple of unique approaches to this material. The first being that he was really adamant that we flesh out the characters of Worm and Morris. I mean, the brothers are so fully realized that he wanted Worm and Morris to have the same depth.
Les traits secondaires de Worm et Morris ont pris une importance au point d'être à égalité avec les 2 frères. Et à partir de ce moment-là, ça a été assez facile de faire le casting de Worm et Morris. Il s'avère que j'avais rencontré Jacques Gyllenhaal quelques années auparavant à Los Angeles. Il m'avait manifesté son désir de travailler avec moi. Ça, c'est donc voilà. Et que Riz Ahmed, je l'ai vu dans une série qui s'appelle The Night Of. Et il m'avait beaucoup impressionné. Et donc voilà, et ça s'est fait comme ça.
What we need to do is put an end to all this barbarity and put an end to all this violence, find a solution for it by inventing a new society, a society where the relationships among men is governed by respect and the absence of profit. Thus a society without greed.
What I think is atypical about this movie in context of the genre is that it's very modern, and I think it deals with issues of masculinity. It kind of challenges what the original Western put forth. And I think Jacques has taken this idea of violence and love and put them into these four characters, and in that way is begging the question about what it is to be a man. Is it okay to be sensitive and vulnerable? And in a lot of ways, he turns the genre on its head because of that. And that's what he's done with most of his films, and it's why it makes this one so special.
When we were kids, Charlie killed our father. And I'm the older one. It should have been me.
Jacques is one of my favorite film directors. I think, many people see him as one of the finest, directors working in the world today. I think the thing that I like most about working with Jacques is I personally very much like trying quite different things from one take to the next. He always wants to push you to just try something different. It's not that he's trying to drive towards one image in his mind that he's preconceived. It's actually that he just wants to keep pushing and prodding the thing and seeing how it mutates and how it might evolve. I find that really creatively stimulating.
Tu vas à droite, tu vas à gauche et tu t'éloignes. Mais la ligne, tu veux que je suis de dos? Oui, tu peux être de dos. Quand tu dis ta réplique, tu es de dos. À nous. De caméra ou de caméra?
Jacques is also like the king of the unexpected interpretation of something. He's like the enemy of cliché.
Un temps de warm des deux os. Je trouve que ça commence très bien. C'est quand j'ai à nouveau la scène. J'en ai rien de la faute de la scène vue ici. Reste sur warm. Tu restes sur warm, tu fais comme ça. Et à la fin, il se retourne et il y a les deux autres qui sont au boulot.
La plus grande difficulté pour moi sur ce film, c'était le fait que ce soit effectivement un film d'époque. Parce que ça suppose une reconstitution, ça suppose beaucoup de choses.
At the very beginning, Jacques and his team traveled the approximate path from Oregon to San Francisco so they could see the actual landscape. And then he set about scouting in Spain and Romania and in Canada. It was determined that it would be best for Jacques to shoot in Europe. He'd really get to shoot the way he likes to work.
I was thinking to be as natural as possible on the movie. You have already the colors, the darkness, or even for the wardrobe, it's beautiful for me.
Usually, in the Western, the landscape is like one of the actors because it gives this legendary background of discovery a new world.
The Wild West is an enduring, construct. I think what's so attractive about it is it's expansive. By nature, we are, obsessed with freedom and, maybe the prospect of prosperity, and these landscapes offer just endless opportunities to look at that.
We have the backlots, which are existing sets, Western movie streets in studio backyards. For instance, in Andalusia, the old sets are lasting from the Sergio Leone era, so it was like 50 years ago.
It's good.
Borscht.
I think for Jacques it was important also to have some colors, not to be like a black and white Western movie, so have some rich colors.
With some legend like Milena, I have no doubt that the texture will be super precise. She's persisting because she wants to really that everything makes sense and that everything goes in the good energy and in the good sense.
Jacques had seen an exhibition of American painters in Paris, sent me the book. They're all painters that we all know, but it kind of crystallized some of his views on colors, palette, and all that, which helped me along. I love research because when I do a period movie, I become somebody who has lived, that life. So research is very important. We have a fantastic, wonderful costume maker, katamaker, really a maître, who has really written books, and he happened to be available, so he came with us. All the clothes were made by us. All the clothes of the principal, of course. Jacques liked things to look dusty and dirty, like they would have been in those days, because there was no laundry around the corner. We used black soap to make it more dirty. This movie very much is about hats. Thank God Jacques likes hats. I love hats. As you see, I love hats. Jacques loves hats, and he allowed me in this movie to keep a lot of the actors with hats, including Rebecca, who plays Mayfield. So, I didn't put the hat on Mom tonight because that may be too much. She's in the house.
Who are you?
Mayfield.
Ah, the great man himself.
In the book, Mayfield is a guy.
We're the Sisters Brothers.
Good to meet you, man. You planning on staying long? It was very interesting understanding something of the filmmaker's desire to make her female, which wasn't immediately apparent when at the point of casting. But whereas I got to know Jacques and spent more time with him on set, I've discovered, and also during the creation of the costumes with Milena Canonero, I understood that the inspiration for Mayfield as a woman was that they found some source material from the 1850s of very strong females in this world, some of whom may have been trans. And I think Jacques was really interested in exploring flipping the expectation upside down, which I think is visionary, frankly. So thank you, Jacques, wherever he is.
All right, Mayfield. You're not gonna like what comes next.
Oui, une chose, oui. C'est que quand tu vas parler des autres...
Jacques wants to take his time for the comedy, to work with the actors. I try on this movie to create mostly like an ambience. I take the camera on my shoulder, and we go and we try to catch the good moment with the actors. So usually the old Western was more like a classical, I don't know, with traveling, with track, with long shot, very static. And here it's more, I think, to follow the action, to follow the actors and be with them.
I'll do the reaction before the line.
Jacques' work is so dynamic and so original. I don't really know anyone else who works the way that he does. He's thinking of 10 different things at the same time, and yet he's completely present in the moment and knows exactly what he wants.
Charlie, Thomas did it! The intent when you option something as an actor is it would be a piece of material for you to act in. But we also wanted to give whoever directed it total freedom, especially someone like Jacques, who's used to working completely independently. There were a couple times along the way where I was wondering whether I was going to be in the movie or not, but a test nonetheless between Jacques and I, where he wanted to know, are you really going to let me do whatever I want with this story? I think I've won Jacques over by now.
Hey, have you noticed how long it's been since anyone tried to kill us?
I don't know. 3 or 4 days?
Don't you find that strange?
I like tough movies. There's adversity. In some ways, I wouldn't say that I had an attraction to this era, but I loved making a movie about gold rush fever. I loved making a movie about these brothers, set against the backdrop of this sort of unique time.
Do you really think this is worth it?
We're the Sisters Brothers. We're good at what we do.
how did you come across this project?
Enfin, il faut que je remonte à toute l'histoire.
Okay, I will translate.
You want all the story?
The whole story.
The whole story, yeah, go ahead.
So, il y a très longtemps, il y a 6 ans.
A long time ago, 6 years ago.
John C. Reilly et Alison Dickey.
John C. Reilly and Alison Dickey, his
m'ont
wife,
amené un roman.
Brought a book to us.
The Sister Brothers de
The
Patrick
Sisters
DeWitt.
Brothers by Patrick DeWitt.
Et je l'ai lu.
I read it.
Et vous savez quoi?
And you know what?
Ça a fait un film.
I made a film out of it.
Mais non, la chose un peu étrange, c'est que c'est la première fois de ma vie que quelqu'un m'amène. Enfin, normalement, je choisis les livres.
The strange thing is, it's the first time. Normally, I choose the book, I choose everything.
With Tom.
We do that together.
Et c'est la première fois qu'on m'amène quelque chose que je vais faire.
But it's the first time somebody bring me something that I will turn into a film.
Jake, I saw an interview with you where you basically admitted that you harassed Jacques for years to give you a part.
You answer your own questions.
Sorry.
You're a ventriloquist.
I just
it's easier. It's easier.
It's very easy. Yes, yeah, I did. I mean, I've been, I've never said this to you in person, really, but he's probably my favorite director.
Go for a walk.
And so yeah, when I heard that he was adapting the book into a movie, I found his email, and I wrote him, and then he never wrote me back. And then I just stalked him for like a number of years. And then I was on the jury at Cannes when he won for Deepan. And
yes, you worked for me.
Yes. And then nobody wanted that movie to win, but I gave my life to make sure that it did, just to get a part in this movie. No, and I met him there again, and then we met a couple of times, and then I got a random phone call that a few years later that he was offering me a role in the movie, and I didn't. Forgive me, I didn't even read the script. I just said yes. No, and then that was it.
What kind of preparation do you have to do for a part like this, though? I mean, you have incredible range. You've done a really wide range of films and parts. This is the kind of film. I mean, there's a historical context, but it's obviously, it's very irreverent. How authentic do you need to get it? You're working this accent. Like, what are these, tools that you have to work with for something like this?
I mean, the luxury of working with someone like Jacques is that I think probably 70% of your work is done for you before you even show up. There's so much thought and so much choice that you're walking into a pretty much already finished canvas. So essentially you just try not to fuck it up. And to me, Jacques and I, the biggest thing that we discussed really was that how do you communicate a character, his upbringing, his history in a shorter period of time with not a lot of explanation. And one of the reasons I think I deeply love their films and the films that they do together is that there's so much implication and there's so much room for the audience's mind to roam and to fill in themselves. When I came on set, I had every prop was laid out for me of different choices, 4 different choices of, every single possible thing that my character had, and then I slowly picked. Like I bought my blanket, and we all did.
Well, I mean, even though the film is a Western, it feels very relevant to today. I mean, speaking to issues of immigration, diversity, masculinity, race. Were these ideas in the novel? I mean, from everything I've heard from you guys talking about the film, it seems like there was always discussion involved. It was very kind of a process, a very organic process. How much of these themes were there in the beginning, and how much of it did you kind of develop as you made the film?
Je pense que beaucoup de choses étaient dans le livre. En fait.
A lot of it was in the book.
Et plus que tout, peut-être le ton si original de Patrick DeWitt.
Yeah, and Patrick DeWitt, very peculiar tone.
Après, Tom et moi, on a développé, c'est vrai, les personnages de Worm et de Maurice.
We developed Worm and Maurice's character a lot because
qui fournissent au film, enfin aux personnages en tout cas de Charlie et Eli, comme une espèce d'horizon intellectuel.
because it gives the brothers an origin, something to look forward. And there's something that there are a few things that are not in the book, and that came, of course, Worm and Maurice's character, but also the idea of that utopia that Worm has. So that makes some kind of a difference, because if you take up that gives us another level to the story. If you take out the utopia, all the characters will talk about is money. They will talk about gold. Here, the greed. Here, they talk about an idea. So it's actually the story of two guys chasing one guy who's chasing an idea. So it's a different way of looking at the film.
I'm curious. I mean, the film is very irreverent in style and tone, and very funny. But it never feels particularly contrived. You know, everything is, you know, the humor, irony, it's all very organic. And I'm curious, I mean, we talked about this, a little bit about this before, but, you know, the idea of trying to bring this irony, this irreverence out of something that is actually, in many ways, very authentic, much more authentic, I think, than, you know, like a Clint Eastwood Western might be, you know.
Mais comment, parce que je pense que je sais pas, je penserais pas à Eastwood, je penserais plutôt à Tarantino. Comment, il n'y a pas de, comment l'ironie, le cynisme ne m'intéresse pas beaucoup.
I'm not really interested by cynicism and irony.
On fait pas l'idée de faire un film contre ou de faire le malin. Je suis pas malin.
I'm not smart. I'm not that smart. I don't want to
Donc,
try
voilà.
to impress people or make
Oui,
it
voilà,
against something or subvert something.
Comme moi, j'ai une foi énorme dans le cinéma.
I really believe in cinema.
Et il faut que le cinéma m'émeuve et m'apprenne quelque chose. Si ça ne m'émeut pas, si ça ne m'apprend pas quelque chose sur l'âme humaine, je vois pas trop à quoi ça sert.
And cinema has to move me, and it has to teach me something about the human soul. That's the use of it.
Je serai jamais plus profond que là.
I will never be that profound again.
So, Jake, I have to ask you, what's Jacques Audiard like to work with? Pretend he's not here.
Working with him for me was a difficult thing, because I think that I've seen him from afar. I've watched his movies and I've been such a fan. And because I have seen his movies not in my language, because he is who he is, and we don't travel in the same circles, because of all of that, I think I have admired him so much and admired his work so much that I had never walked on a set feeling that type of admiration for a filmmaker. And so it was difficult for me, because I was ready to just not challenge a thing or ask a question. I was ready to sort of admittedly worship at the altar of a filmmaker who I love, you know? And what I discovered was that, you know, that was helpful, because I loved watching him just because I'm a fan. But what I was surprised by was the intellectual stimuli and sense of humor and the simplicity that he wants. You know, I think constantly with performers, he would always say, essentially, you're doing too much. I mean, it's a constant with Jacques, and I think as performers we do that, and what he's looking for is a human simplicity, which is obviously full of complexity, but that there's a stillness that he wants, and I love that, because a lot of people think acting is supposed to be a whole lot more, and that's, I think, maybe why I love his films, is because the acting in them is just, there's a stillness at the center of each one of his characters, even if they're doing a ton.
Hi, congratulations on the film. My
Thank
question's
you.
for Jake. So this Western really sticks out to me because of its lack of focus on machismo and more of these characters' desire for connection and a search for humanity. How do you feel that plays into your character and his relationship with Riz Ahmed?
Well, we talked about that a lot, and I think at one point there was a scene between me and Riz where the realization was that it wasn't just about these men discovering their masculinity, but also the men before them and their fathers. That there's a real shadow, a real ghost of each one of their fathers in the midst of this story. And I think what is really interesting is this sort of profound search for what it is to be a man when there are so few models outside of convention. And I think convention can be tremendously destructive and misleading. And I think that was the idea, and I can't really speak to it except to say that Morris was a character that had many incarnations in many drafts before I even came in. You know, he was like, and his relationship with Worm is, there's that look that they look at each other that you cut for, like, feels like an eternity when Worm looks at Morris in that moment. And you rarely see another man look at another man like that, you know, without having like some sort of homoeroticism to it. And maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but you rarely see an intimacy and a love where you go like, I'm looking at you, I love you, right? And it's minus the sexuality, you know? And maybe it isn't, I don't know, but that wasn't in this movie, but that wasn't the concern necessarily. The intimacy was very important, and it's an amazing moment that you see. And then ultimately their love when he says, you were my best friend, and it's actually John's character, you know, that he says it to. It's beautiful. I mean, there are so many beautiful moments of a sort of unexplored sense of masculinity in cinema, I would say.
Okay, I have a question about Jake's character, and you said that he wasn't in the book. So what did you guys, all three of you, feel that this movie and the story needed in this character, and how do you think his character pays off in the story towards the two brothers?
Well, we needed to develop the character, the two, Worm and Maurice, to create a tension. In the book, it's really about the brothers and the wandering around, and it's a lot of inner thoughts from Eli, and it's really a book that is written at the first person, and we needed to create that tension. So in order to do that, we needed to have to develop the other couple, and but we wrote so many things about Morris, John Morris. We had so much backstory about him, that he was working on a circus at one point. You remember that? We had that. There was a lot of backstory on him, and he's a mysterious character. But the thing we wanted that at one moment, in the middle of a conversation, he will have a realization. He will understand something about himself, and that's what happened when he understands that he's 35 years old and his life is like an empty barrel.
I love the way it ends with the shot, you know, of him like sleeping or dozing, you know, eventually home. And I wanted to know if it's like an aim of your cinema to go that way, on hope and relief, and to end your movies this way.
Mais ça, c'est en tant que scénariste, réalisateur et éventuellement spectateur.
Like a screenwriter, as a screenwriter, director, and also as an audience.
C'est qu'en fait, je n'aime pas les fins tragiques.
I don't like tragic endings.
Je trouve que c'est toujours une facilité. C'est
So
comme dans la vie.
It's too easy. It's like like with life. It's too easy.
Voilà. C'est toujours plus difficile de se lever le matin en disant « Yes, ça va être formidable ».
Yeah, it's more difficult to wake up in the morning saying, yeah, whoa,
Alors
let's go.
Sisters. We're the Sisters Brothers.
Good to meet you, man.
The brothers' kinship is trauma, and then they set off on this life of violence. There's that terrible, like, connectedness of blood relations.
I slap you, you slap me back. Raven. So go ahead, hit me.
There's that sense of inescapability when you're with a sibling or you're with a blood relative.
You do realize that our father was stark raving mad.
It's this feeling we're joined together. It's not a choice, this relationship.
Why do you let him treat you like that?
He's my brother.
It's fate and it's blood, and I can't get out of it. And so whatever happens to us, we're gonna either get through it or we're gonna die together.
Hey, did you get him?
Yeah, he's dead. Let's go get a drink. You're not gonna like what comes next.
This is the life we were born into. Everyone is armed. There's this explosive, volatile, this idea of treating people with respect.
Sorry for your loss.
Or not.
Sir, please. Just making sure.
We're gonna get through it or we're gonna die together.
Bingo.
Hey! This is the Sisters Brothers! You don't stand a chance!
Charlie? Huh? We've had a good long run. We need to get out. We could open the store together.
Store? This is nonsense. You walk in the front door and finish the job. All right. You're not gonna like what comes next. Open your safe.
No, never.
We're the Sisters Brothers. S-I-S-T-E-R-S. Like sisters.
We're looking for a man named Warm.
He stole something from our employer.
We have enough money to stop for good.
Stop what?
Killing people.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes I feel I've got to run away.
Do you realize that our father was struck raving mad and we got his foul blood?
Our father drank, Charlie.
Touche.
Gentlemen, I have found him. I will try to hold him until your arrival.
Make haste. What does this Worm have that's so interesting?
What's the great challenge that all prospectors face? How do I get the gold just beneath my feet? I told you I'm a chemist.
Worm has a formula. You pour it in the river, it lights up all the gold.
Have you ever tested it?
You think it's them?
Yes. We're going to have to fight. Is your gun loaded?
Eventually, you're gonna get us killed.
You're forgetting something. We are the Sisters Brothers. We're good at what we do.
Charlie!
Are you upset?
I'm leaving.
What's wrong with you?
You hit me in public, Charlie.
So I slap you, you slap me back. We're even. So go ahead. Hit me. Hit me. Jesus Christ! What is your goddamn problem?
Oh, tainted love.